Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 106 of Mini Truckin Magazine, October of 2000. It's an awesome issue. Something a little bit different you'll see here on the cover. The table of contents basically goes on to say, everything else looks easy once you've brought a 2000 Nissan Frontier Crew Cab down to Mother Earth, referring to Dave Slavik's historical four-door Nissan along with Mike Schlem's 83 720. They're, of course, showing the world that Nissan, or Nissans in general, are definitely here to stay. The main cover image was by Mike Self. Now, this was technically Mike Self's first cover with a sole credit of his own, which is awesome. Again, Mike has chimed in before, and we do know that a lot of covers, multiple folks shot them. Some shot interior photos and things like that. But we like to go based upon, the credits in the magazine. That's what we can do. There's basically 4 Nissans. And if you look here, basically they're reinforcing 40 years of mini trucks. I mentioned before, Ernie, rest in peace, has written about this. Of course, Lance does in this issue as well. You basically have the first ever Custom Frontier Crew, which they call out on the cover here, and then Invasion USA on page 30 that we'll get to, reinforces that minis literally go back to the late 50s. One thing I want to mention too is the Nissan 720 here. That was I Hate Bumps, IH number 8 BMPS on Instagram. He's been a longtime supporter of the podcast, and we certainly appreciate that. But basically, again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You could slice and dice this one a couple of ways. The way I've looked at it is, these are the 2 cover trucks. This one was in extreme lows, if I remember correctly, so they get the credit. They had 3 covers. If I remember correctly, they had 3 total covers, and we can kind of cover that a little bit more later. So let's jump right in here. You basically have the table of contents, and you can see where I took a look here just to pull some of that information. The cabbie, Mike the cabbie Self. Lance did a really good job, I've said this before, in really making the magazine more international, and covering stories like this I think were key. Where did we come from? The scrub line. And I kind of go over this so that obviously it's in 4K if you want to pause it or you want to take a screenshot so you can read it. It ties in to where, minis came from. And like I've always said, and Ernie, I believe, said this similar thing in the West Coast Influence DVD. Shout out to them, minitruckfilm.com. You can buy a copy. That, minis were born, obviously, from Japan. And out of the 70s gas crisis, the Chevy Love, the light utility vehicle, and some of those things were created to help with, you're trying to have better gas mileage. And it literally goes back to the 1950s, 58, 59, right in that era. Body Drop 101, creating the master image for your ride. So Mike Self links up with Master Image Customs on a great tech article. And again, this stuff was kind of how a lot of people figured out how to do things. That's how information spread. The Sonombre, pretty cool name. A mix between the Blazer and the Ombre, so you get the Sonombre. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to say that right. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But you can see here just a kind of classic 2-door Blazer. As I've said before, I don't think these things got enough love. But from a nostalgia perspective, I dig that there's some around. We just saw the silver one at Lone Star Throwdown. And let me tell you, Radar and those guys asked to bring more minis. They wanted to see more minis, and there were tons of mini trucks. Now, I'm not going to venture to say, how many. I don't know that there were 100, but there was a good mix. There was a good mix of minis there, and I was super excited. Dustin Henley of Hobbs, New Mexico. Twiztid, Twiztid, with a real clean Nissan Hardbody. Rolling shot here, it appears, or like I said before, this could easily just be some trickery. If we look at it, it looks like it probably was a rolling shot based upon, and then they kind of blur this. No slight there. Again, just a cool observation when we look back. The kind of a retrospect, I would say, of this magazine. Here you've got super clean engine bay. Love the graphics on the air cleaner. And real clean interior. Nice truck. You can see here they're promoting GreatRide.com. That was that early push that they had to drive people online. I think online was huge at the time, but didn't spend a lot of time on that website. Invasion USA, so Lance and the Nissan Motor Corporation are credited with the photography, obviously. And some of these amazing trucks you'll sometimes see in Japan. You'll rarely see them kind of here. Very cool article talking about the Datsun and again, where we kind of started and the progression, which ties into the cover with the different style Nissan pickups. If you like what we're doing here, check out OLP, which is short for Our Lifestyle Podcast, via most, or I should say any podcast app for the most part. It's free, and we appreciate the support. Bolt-on bag, so Easy Street, doing a tech article here. Don't forget to comment, share this with others. I know we've continued to grow, and we can't thank you guys enough for watching all the way through. It's much appreciated. The High Rolla, their commitment to feature lifted minis was key. You've seen, if you've watched these, going all the way back to issue number 1. I can't believe we're this far ahead in our journey to go through all 269. You know the significance of lifted mini trucks, and here they are continuing to feature those. Here's pages 50 and 51. Like this, like that. Kind of ties into some Dr. Dre lyrics a little bit there with the Chronic. Nothing but a G thing. Like this and like that and like this and you have basically the two trucks on the cover and really, really cool shoot. Now, this does say, when we break it down, I'll update this. We got Lance and Mike. And again, Mike has been very clear. We do know this, that, you know, sometimes the principal photography for the main layout may have been one photographer. They may have then had to go and do some engine shots and interior shots and things like that. So it's no slight. Again, it's just a way for us to credit. So basically you do have Lance and Mike that did this one. One thing that you'll see that you may have never noticed if your truck wasn't featured or you weren't at a feature, something I wanted to call out was when you look at these shots, a lot of times you do not see the hood prop. How do they do that? Well, the photographer would ask the owner to hold the hood open, and obviously then they can he or she can take their shot of the engine bay without the hood prop there. So a little behind the scene thing that I saw multiple times, and you can kind of see it here because we do not see the hood prop. I guess it's a little tough to see. It's probably just right there where a hood prop would go, but it is worth noting that. This is a very cool layout. I love the background. I love the fact that the crew cab has taken precedence in terms of the main, layout there. And then you've got the 720 looking dope right there in the background, kind of in the side, if that makes sense. But it's not to take away because both of these trucks were featured, and it was a very cool concept. Whoever came up with this, probably Lance and Mike together. You had an opportunity to showcase the brand new, as crew cabs were starting to be on the rise. You have the new and the old. Super clean with tweed. You've got the blow through, which are still popular to this day. And here's the throwback term of the week for you. The fold out, the fold out head unit. God, there were so many different versions of it, but you can obviously see here the normal either EQ or head unit there, but they did have the fold out screen. I Hate Bumps on Instagram. I don't recall if he still owns this. I want to say that he chimed in recently and said that he was missing his Mini, but I'm about 100% on that. If you do break down as well, I believe there were 3 vehicles that had the prime wheels. So I got to go back here and think through this. So basically you had issue 93. No, excuse me. You had a couple things here. I'm trying to remember. You had, this was the second of 2 covers with prime wheels, because the only other one I can think of, which is a hard issue for me to get a hold of, was November 94, was the Lilac truck, the purple Toyota with scallop type graphics. So something to call out there. So this was the 2 of 2, and we know they're prime wheels because they mention right here the model 122. So now technically, again, there's multiple trucks on the cover, but I try to break it down, you know, the best I can, because I mean, you could really, really slice and dice things and get a little too crazy in the weeds. Mike Self, again, this was his 3rd cover. That's what I was trying to think, because basically the prior issues for him were issue 93, September 99, and issue 97, January 2000. So here's what else I want to mention. Okay, so Street Scene. If you've been following these, you know that that was early on in the pub, so the publication, and it's kind of back. And ironically enough, around this time, Street Scene, the website was popping off. We really need to do an episode on that, and how Street Scene, I always get this backwards or sometimes mixed up. Street Source, I think, was originally Street Scene, if you guys remember that. And I think there was like a cease and desist by one of the Hot Rod magazines, and then it became Street Source. That's going back over 20 years, so keep me honest on that. And but it was kind of cool that, you know, I don't know if Street Scene kind of made a comeback, you know, in terms of that verbiage in the publication, because of the growth of Street Scene website that turned into Street Source. What do you guys say? Do you say Street Source or Street Scene when you're referring back to that amazing website? Again, shout out to everybody that continues to listen and watch these all the way through. It really helps us. West Coast Nats. So this would have been West Coast Nats, what, 2000? And you got Craig Elder's van here, the white Explorer, and then, of course, I Hate Bumps. You have his Nissan 720. You got Colorado Custom. This is back with the prior ownership. Shout out to Michael and team. They've carried on the legacy of this company 30-ish years. I think about early 90s they started, but this is with the prior ownership. This is how you'd see them at the shows. And, of course, I got a chance to visit them last September when I was out in Anaheim, California area. Here you got Corey's Hardbody. This would go on. Someone mentioned this recently. This would go on to grace the cover of Mini Truckin', but don't forget it was featured, I think it was September 2000 Street Trucks, and it is worth noting that I recently went through that feature, some of our shorter features as well. Here you have Kev Dog. For those that don't know, Kev Dog from the famed Bitchin' Rides, also known as Ken Diggett. Kev Dog, the right-hand guy, if you will, to Dave. That was his bone collector. I talked to Kev Dog at SEMA a couple years ago about that, and he's like, yeah, bone collector, you know what's up. Here is the Mazda that we saw on the cover recently. And you can see this is a true River Run. Fun bags, I always remember that. They wrote that on there. If you haven't followed us on social media, please do so. I've been posting a lot of reels from Lone Star Throwdown. LST was amazing. Here you have the famous Civic from Idaho. I forget if this was Airbrush Chris or one of his buddies. There were a couple different guys in Severed at that time. Super clean. Always loved this Hardbody. Just a real nice look with the windows in that topper. And then that lower view. That was always an awesome logo. A lot of hand-painted logos in that era. And they look damn good. And let's not forget the Astro. Or GMC Safari. But generally speaking. Kind of sum those up as Astros. You have Easy Street, talking about Alter. You have Alter Images here. Do the Math, Bill Thompson. Car Audio. Here's a blast from the past. Ed Wood, who remembers who directed that movie. It's kind of a strange one, and yeah. Didn't really get into that one. Here you have what's in the CD changer. Marshall Mathers LP. That stuff was huge at that time. It came out at a good time for many of us because we were traveling the shows and CDs were huge, whether it was a disc changer or whatnot. The Airbag Commandments. Bill Dermond. Reserve tank, air storage, fittings and connectors. It's kind of funny how some of the terms are like very technical. Connectors. But I'll kind of go through this again. Some of you guys pull screen grabs. I mean, that's a part of why I started doing these, because oftentimes people will say, hey, my dad's truck was featured, blah, blah, blah. This will help people maybe get down to the month and year. Also, these are all in playlists by year, so you can always go back by the playlist. It makes it a little bit easier. Here's Hector and Jennifer Grant. So Hector DeWart and Jennifer Grant, their Hardbody. Pretty cool. They kept Construction Zone with the theme of Nissan. Here you have Randy Pickerel, a name that we've heard, and still doing the damn thing, right? This dramatically detailed Sweet and the Small Stuff, or yeah, right? Split the Small Stuff. Can't read. This little wall in the background, again, I think is the same area where we saw the January 2000 issue. So it kind of reinforces that these features were stacked. And that's what they did. And this was a perfect type feature. Split the Small Stuff. To run in the publication at that time, because Sport Compact was still on the rise. The North Louisiana Custom Nationals. So you see RA. I remember seeing this truck here at Showfest in Greenville. One of the cool things that always stuck out to my buddy and I is it had a clear windshield. It did not have the strip at the top, the little factory tint strip. I always wanted to get one of those for my S-10, but I don't know that they made those for the newer body style S-10s. Again, very subtle, but super, super clean truck. We talked about this truck recently, the Nissan. And this was a dope S-10 we saw back at the Panama City show. And it's unique. It's a full-size, I say mini, it's a full-size OBS, but what throws you off is it's a Phantom dually, and it has S-10 taillights. So that was good time, something different. And speaking of that, we also saw this truck went to a few shows, and then I think it took a break a while after it came from New Jersey down. And of course, we saw it at Scraping the Coast a few years ago. Scraping the Coast, one of the best shows out there. Scraping with an IN, thecoast.com. We'll continue to see this photo up here that I mentioned before in the Wise Up. Here you have Keeping the Faith. The Road Dot Diaries. That was always a cool name. Keeping the Faith. Mike, a young Mike Self there. I think we were all younger. After losing my S-10, college tuition can be a bitch. I never thought I'd be able to finish another Mini for a while. I was proving myself right. Kind of talks about getting into back in the Minis on the rise. And then Graffiti. So again, Lance's kind of creation here. And we see Gulf Coast Custom. Shout out to Eister and the crew. Sean Orndorff's dime. I think that thing is no longer in existence, unfortunately. Here, I just noticed this. This is Master Image Customs. The floor, and we can see right there the painted. Ruben is trying to get a guest on, which I think will be cool. That ties into MIC. Here's Low Roller. Shout out to those guys. And you can see that's the Maxima, I think, the plaque, in the news plaque. Again, in the news was right 15 minutes for me, 20 minutes for me for years. Tuck Lugs, very cool photo there. Truck's still around. And yeah, topless Isuzu. Good stuff. And MIC has the back cover. Still doing the damn thing. What do you guys think? Mini Truckin Magazine 106, October 2000 was a good year. Many of you have commented and kind of got in the late 90s, very early 2000s. So do you remember this issue? What do you like about it? You can see across the top, I haven't mentioned this, but and Compacts was still listed. Thanks for all the support. We're going to continue our journey here, Lord willing. Leave a comment and show some love. If you want to buy merch, hit up our lifestylepodcast.com. The link is at the very top of the description. You can buy merch. Mike typically ships that out within a business day or two. And we appreciate all the support. Minis on the rise. I'm going to go ahead and flash now if you want to subscribe. It helps us out. And speaking of Mike, hopefully he's at home thinking of some new mods for Project Banana Hammock. We out ya. Peace out, y'all.